who's the favorites, what we expect to see, what people will need to do, and yeah, general storylines as we head into the top 8. And yeah, I'm joined here by
King Funk,
Fuzziness,
and Liquid Chillin'.
Yeah, so Liquid Chillin' being one of our intercontinental players here at the tournament. This is your first European tournament, am I correct?
Yes.
How's your experience been thus far?
It's been awesome. I honestly didn't expect this level of production or this well-run of a tournament for what I assume is a smaller scene compared to most. And so the fact that I was able to come here and basically have the same type of experience that I would get at most major tournaments in the States was a big surprise, a pleasant surprise.
That's really cool. And how did your personal achievements line up to what you expected?
I definitely wish I could have done a little bit better. I had trouble adjusting to PAL for sure. Fox is a lot different. Definitely. But it was definitely a fun event regardless.
Yeah. Did it fundamentally change the matchups, or was it micro things to adjust to, how to recover properly, sweet spotting? And
yeah, it was definitely smaller things that added up in the long term. So I think that there's no glaring discrepancies between PAL and NTSC, but the ones that are there are important enough to end up affecting the matches.
Any particular players that sort of wasn't on your radar that impressed you, or?
Well, both of the Dutchies that I lost to, Adam and Zagetto, are both extremely good, and it's impressive for how little major tournament experience they seem to have, at least recently. The fact that they're able to still compete at such a high level and maintain that intensity.
That's really cool to hear, and we all appreciate you coming here. It kind of makes it more special that we get to play against some of these people that we've seen online for so many years, and also for you in the documentary, and sort of a legend in the scene. And we really appreciate you coming out. So
thanks, man. Yeah, no, it was an honor to come out and experience the European scene for the first time, and I've definitely had a blast doing so.
Yeah, I'm glad you had fun. So we're going to be starting talking about the winner's side. So on one side, we have Armada versus Professor Pro. And on the other side, we have Leffen versus Ice. Starting off with Armada versus Prof. Obviously, Armada would have to be considered a favorite. What are your guys' thoughts heading into the first game of the top 8? We can start with you, Mr. King Funk.
Well, I don't believe Prof has ever won a single set against Armada, so he's definitely facing an uphill battle. Generally, the problem is that he seems to be able to hang in the neutral game, but it's really the punish game between the two that makes the difference. Every time Prof gets a hit, it's like 0 to 40, 0 to 50. Every time Armada touches him, it's death. So.
Fuzzy, you probably know him better than most, so maybe you have some insights.
I've watched it a lot, and I've talked to him about it, and also from Armada's view as well, is that Prof tries to put on a certain play style when he plays Armada from watching videos and practicing, but when he does it in execution, it only lasts for one match. So it's really hard to keep that play style, and that's the match that's usually the closest. There's always that one game, then the rest of the set is usually like a blow, it just gets destroyed. So if you can keep that play style, and also the other issue that Armada bring up is Prof just doesn't know how to kill Peach half the time. If you can manage to kill Peach, especially in power, it's even harder.
Yeah.
Then he'll do a lot better this time. But I think it's going to be a 3-0.
Yeah, Chillin', you being a Fox main for many a year, what is it like playing against a Peach of this caliber as a Fox player?
Well, it's kind of the story of being a Fox main is the consistency is what's hard to keep up. And so I think against a player like Armada is basically the definition of consistency when it comes to his Peach. So playing against him, that's probably why, as Fuzziness alluded to, he gets close in one match, but it's really hard to keep that consistency throughout the match. And that's definitely something that Prof struggles with at times. So if he is able to keep that consistency throughout the set, we could see a much closer set than we usually see and even potentially see the upset.
Cool. And on the other side of the winner's bracket, we have Leffen versus Ice. Maybe not as one-sided of set count there, but definitely Leffen a strong favorite for any given set, not let alone against Ice. What do you think of that set?
So I think the last time, when was the last time Ice won against?
When he came. Oh, what was the tournament?
I think it was Hit and Stun 2 in Spain.
Yeah, in Spain,
yes, in Spain.
That was the famous Leffen controller throw.
Right, yeah. We were going to bring that up.
But
classic.
I do feel it's similar to the Armada versus Prof side. It seems like Ice sometimes has trouble keeping the consistency that that he needs to win the whole set. So he gets some very good games sometimes. He takes games in sets, but it's rare that he takes it the whole way through. So I think it's also a matter of endurance.
I think Ice is becoming more of an on-the-day player rather than struggling in certain players, as shown by Big House.
Yeah.
Apart from the Falco issues he had, all the Fox players he played, he looks so solid.
Yeah.
So if he can just get past the mindset of Leffen as a player and just play him on the day, I think he'll do really well. And I think it could be really close. It could be anyone's. If Ice is playing on point and Leffen's playing... Leffen's also had a break, of course. So
Right, Leffen
maybe
might be a little rusty.
A little sloppy, a
When
little rusty.
when Ice faced SFAT at Big House, I loved his confidence. It's as if he was playing some random Fox in pools, and he was like, "Oh, I'm just destroying this guy." And if he can, if he can get this confidence up against Leffen,
It's all mindset for Ice. Like,
Yeah.
mindset is one of the biggest weaknesses for all top players.
and it's clearly
Yeah.
something he has been working on recently. It's mindset.
Right, the third place finish at Big House being a big sign of how Ice has been able to break through that barrier that he was at for a while. And so I think if he's able to play like he did against SFAT with that same type of mindset, then he will definitely have a really good chance against Leffen, especially considering that Leffen is coming back from the break. And I mean, he did drop a game to Zagetto earlier in Fox Dittos, but he, generally speaking, has looked pretty sharp. So it's going to be tough for Ice regardless.
Yes, indeed. And on the losers bracket, we have our initial matches, Zagetto versus Triff and Kage versus Android. Let's start off with Zagetto versus Triff. Zagetto, part of sort of the Dutch revolution of Zagetto and Adam really stepping it up in the past year and just increasing their consistency and just playing at a higher level more regularly. And Triff has just been making splashes for the past 2 years or so in Europe in general. I believe he might have a sort of a historical advantage facing off against Zagetto, but what do you guys think?
Do we know the set record between the two?
Fuzziness, maybe?
I think it's rough for Zagetto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's got a set. I
Who
could
do
be wrong.
Who do you consider the favorite going into it?
Triff, just because past, like, Zagetto hasn't really shown anything new against Peach, as I know anyway. And Triff last time beat him a hair, so...
Do they have
I
any
don't
Peach
see-
players in Netherlands?
They do. They have Mark, but of course Zagetto's played against Amada several sets. He took a set off him in the past. He does definitely good against Peach, but I think Triff just bodies people who aren't used to his style. Peach is the kind of character where it's more the player style than the character, and I think Triff just has the upper hand there.
Yeah, I played him in a bunch of friendlies earlier, and he definitely has a really unique Peach. It just caught me off guard with a lot of different things. So if Zagetto isn't ready for those sort of tricks that Triff has up his sleeve, then that could definitely be problematic for Zagetto.
Yeah, and the winner of that match would face off against the loser of Armada versus Prof. So if we assume that there's not a major upset there and the winner plays Prof, how do you see that panning out for either player? Do you think Zagetto or Triff has a better chance facing off against Prof?
So Zagetto has actually given Prof a good amount of trouble, actually, in the last... I think he's still positive in sets.
He lost last time, but
yeah.
again, always very close, either side.
Yeah, it seems like Zagetto is one of the few players who can really get into Prof's head
Yes.
when he plays well. As for Triff,
I think it would be close,
yeah,
but
How does that usually go?
I don't think it... It might have happened once.
have they played that much? Like,
Maybe Prof beat him once. I don't remember Triff beating Prof. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, and Professor Pro, we've seen like the last 2 years, he's been so consistent in Europe and like beating everyone ranked below him and never really dropping any stray sets, and consistently struggling a little bit about the the top 3 players or so. Recently, some of the other players in the top 8 or top 10 have been able to take sets.
Top 10,
You
sure.
think like sort of the stronghold and the lockdown Prof had on that part of the top 8 is starting to vanish, or do you think Prof is doing something different? Maybe he's experimenting in order to break through to the next level. You gotta lose some to gain some in the end.
I think people are just remaining the focus against him, not getting frustrated by his style. He's definitely more of a kind of person who wants to frustrate you when he plays. He says he's all about consistency, but his style is just rush down half the time. And he intimidates you to do stupid things, like he does like neutral air on the spot, does it down to when you run in. Things like that, they're just so aggravating. But if you just stay calm against him, collected, I think that's what people may be doing recently, and just like say Zagetto getting into his head. as well. Just understanding him as a player has maybe broken him down a lot for people recently. And that's probably why he's getting a few more losses.
So I have just checked, and it doesn't seem like Trephasia has played Prof
Never?
ever. Like
Okay.
at least since 2014.
Wow.
Maybe that'll be good if it happens then.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be shocking. Like two such notable top players in Europe if they've never actually faced off in brackets.
Yeah, it's quite curious.
Maybe Prof got lucky with the bracket. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I mean, as we were saying, Triphasia does have that sort of unique peach. So if that is actually the first time that they're playing a tournament, then that could be trouble for Prof if he's having to adapt on the fly like that. It is a 3 out of 5, so he has a little bit of time. But like I said, Triphasia has a bunch of just really different stuff with Peach that you're not used to seeing. And a lot of people refer to him as Armada Jr., but I feel like he has just a very different style of Peach than Armada in general as well.
Yeah, he's definitely quite unique. On the other side of the losers bracket, we have Kage facing off against the proper Armada Jr., more by name than by character. And Ganondorf versus Sheik has historically, especially in American tournaments, been seen as a terrible matchup for Ganondorf.
Right.
But in this version of the game, there is no chain grab for Sheik,
Right.
but Ganondorf still has a chain grab on her.
Yeah.
So how do you guys see that impacting it? Do you think it just benefits Ganondorf a little bit? Do you think it sways it entirely in his favor?
Oh, it definitely benefits Ganondorf a little bit, but I do think that Sheik maintains a certain advantage in neutral overall.
Ganon has like a bit more of an advantage in power, but Ganon is still slow enough to react to half his moveset and his jumps. So that's such a huge flaw that if Android plays a very reactive playstyle, even in PAL, it's going to be so hard for Kage.
Yeah, Ganon's weaknesses are still there beyond the chain grab, and so I think that, I mean, I'm not too familiar with the matchup in PAL version specifically, but I feel like Sheik would probably still have the advantage just because she has such a massive advantage in neutral, and the chain grab is really just kind of the cherry on top when it comes to Sheik versus Ganon. Sheik already destroys Ganon in most other facets as well, so it's definitely going to be tough for Kage regardless, but I don't know how familiar Android is with the matchup.
I mean, Ganon's not really meant to get grabs on Sheik anyway.
I would not expect Android to have a lot of experience against a Ganon of Kage's caliber.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, you haven't played against a Ganon until you've played against Kage.
Just
So
beautiful mix-ups.
yeah.
Yeah, he definitely knows the character in and out, and so Android's going to have to be careful, even though I would say Sheik does have the advantage. It's going to be tough regardless.
Yeah, and we don't see a lot of Ganondorfs in top 8 in general, and especially not in Europe. So it's been quite the road to top 8 for Ganondorf. He notably actually beat Triphasia. We were singing his praises earlier, and he actually was able to take him out, and also a kind of a skewed matchup that's not in Ganondorf's favor. So we've seen Kage sort of overcome matchup difficulties in the past, and like you said, the experience factor would definitely be on his side. And I also spoke a little bit to Kage about this, and he mentioned like it's probably still in Sheik's favor, but he was very optimistic, and he said the fact that Sheik doesn't have the chain grab and she can't really get anything off of a grab in general, it means that she has to respect that grab space much more, and he seemed to think that would make it easier to corner Sheik, because you never really want to roll as a Sheik against a Ganon, or you're going to eat a down air to the face.
Yeah.
And the winner there would obviously face off against the loser of Leffen versus Ice. How do you rate either Android or Kage's chances in the matchup?
Kage,
Not
I
good.
don't think so.
I don't think either of them. I don't think either of them stand a chance against either of the players.
I disagree, because like
Android has beaten Ice, right?
That's what I was
Oh,
going to
yeah,
say.
yeah. Oh,
Yes.
yeah, that's
Android
true.
has a read on Ice recently. Even if Ice said he playing bad,
Yeah.
it's still a set you lost. You must have tried,
Right.
and he must have figured something out to beat him. So there's definitely something going on there, and it could happen again. If you beat someone once, you can always beat them again, in my opinion.
Right. The possibility is definitely there, but I would say either way, Leffen or Ice are going to be the heavy favorites against whoever comes out there and losers. For
Do
sure.
you guys see Android as being sort of more likely to make an upset in that portion of the bracket than Kage?
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, Leffen and Ice are both such technical foxes and such reactionary foxes that they fully exploit Ganon's weaknesses as a character to like the maximum extent, basically. So if either of them go up against Kage, he's going to have a huge uphill battle to try to overcome that. Whereas Android has a much more favorable character matchup with the Sheik up against the Fox. Obviously still in Fox's favor slightly, but especially in PAL version, I think Sheik definitely has a lot more to work with than in NTSC. And so I could definitely see Android more likely to pull the upset. That being said, Ganon is the type of character where he gets a little bit of momentum, and all of a sudden, the crowd's on his side, and things start getting a little bit scary for whoever's on the receiving end. So if Kage does get that momentum in his favor, it's possible, but I would definitely say it's more likely for Android.
I mean, Kage says that Ganon can beat Fox in power, but he's just trolling.
Yeah, I mean,
he says it.
He's a big fan of Ganon and Pal in general, but I think he still sees it as an uphill battle against Fox for sure.
Yeah. He does have a Captain Falcon secondary, but I don't think it will have much.
He did quite well against Armada with Captain Falcon.
Oh,
right.
You did
That's
against
true.
Armada?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
I think he actually did better with Falcon, but it's against a Peach versus against a Fox, so it's kind
exactly.
Fox is so hard.
I was getting
yeah. So I don't think that pulling out the Falcon would make too much of a difference for Kage, but it is an option that he possibly has.
You need those
potentially.
whizzy tech chases against Fox players. So hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were mentioning momentum being sort of one of the paths Kage could make an upset with.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about momentum. Like, what is the momentum? How do you define it? And what is the actual impact?
I would say that it's kind of the flow of the match. You can kind of tell when someone's starting to string a lot of hits together and they start to feel more confident in their own play because of the way that they're playing. And so that builds into a lot of momentum, especially having the crowd on your side makes a huge difference as well. Just every time you land a hit, you hear the cheers, and that kind of fuels you a little bit. And so it's definitely something that can swing very easily in Melee. It's not something that once you get momentum, you're in the clear, you're good to go for the match. It swings a lot back and forth, and there's a lot of moments where you can kind of feel the momentum swinging as well. But characters like Ganon and Falcon specifically really benefit from getting momentum in their favor, especially Ganon because he only needs a few hits really to seal a stock sometimes. So if he gets those few hits, then all of a sudden you're a little bit scared. You might be playing a little bit worse in the neutral, which allows him to open you up more and sort of build on that. And so that's basically what momentum means for a character like Ganon or Falcon, and it helps him out in an enormous way.
You guys have any other thoughts on momentum? And it's such a buzzword, so I think a lot of people mean different things when they discuss it, so it's kind of interesting to hear different people's take. Like, is it something tangible? Is it a myth? Is it, just
I think a lot of the game can be summed up in rock, paper, scissors situations, and I feel there are moments in the game where you start getting on the same wavelength as the opponent, and you start thinking, okay, he's going to use rock, he's going to use paper, and now he's going to use scissor. And once you are in the same wavelength, you can pretty much get the momentum going in that way.
Like a lot of people use it for like suddenly just start playing good, or more like an emotional adrenaline kind of thing that he said. But there are times, like as I was talking before, like during commentary, people just say it anyway.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes it's just set out of place. Like just because someone started playing good or just did something good doesn't mean they got momentum, or it could be used out of context, or maybe the player's actually not that confident. You wouldn't know sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
Yeah. So if we assume that both of the top two seeds of this tournament will be facing off in winners finals, how do you guys see that? Do you think we're going to see Peach Fox? Do you think we're going to see a Fox Ditto? Do you think we're going to see more of the sort of counter pick battle that we've seen from Armada and Mango in the past, where sort of the character depends on the stage?
I don't expect Leffen to pull out any other character than the Fox, so I don't think we're going to see much of a counter pick battle. But as for Armada's pick, I'm not too sure. I mean, I saw him over there warming up the Fox, so
Ooh.
It seems like he's gonna go for the Fox Dittos. I think, yeah.
I think maybe if Leffen lost the winners finals and got to grand finals, he may go Marth, for example. He always has a Marth, and like he's really confident in his secondaries. And from experience, Armada hates Marth, so that could always happen, in my opinion. Just that one character that Leffen has in his tool set.
Right. Well, I think that Armada, the whole reason he initially made the Fox switch was because of Leffen, basically. He was the only person that was able to consistently beat his Peach to the point where he said, okay, I have to pick up Fox. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Armada pull out the Fox, although it seems like, generally speaking, that secondary, it's kind of gone back to the pocket a little bit. Armada's been mainly using Peach in most tournaments that we've seen lately. But like I said, the specific person that he pretty much picked up Fox for was Leffen. And so you have to imagine playing against Leffen. If not starting off with Fox, he's at least going to have the Fox as a ready option, especially if it doesn't go well for his Peach. I could see him starting Peach, and then if that doesn't go well, then switching over to the Fox. But either way, I think there's a really strong chance we're going to see Armada's Fox at some point against Leffen.
You could look at it like the Mutaking mindset, where you train something specific, and maybe Armada's Fox was molded just to play against Leffen.
Right.
You could see a Peach on FD counterpick at some point.
Yeah.
But
That's going to happen.
But overall, yeah. Overall, I feel like Armada's Fox pick is more of a player-based choice rather than a matchup-based choice. Like he basically only plays Fox against Leffen and Hungrybox.
Yep.
When you think
Right.
about it.
And we've seen him actually in the past when he intends to switch characters in future sets. He will actually play sort of the Fox, even though he thinks the Peach has an advantage at a certain earlier stage in the bracket. I think we saw it at Battle of the Five Gods. So do you think if Armada intends to play Fox against Leffen, do you think he's going to Fox Ditto Prof just to get back into the swing of things?
I think Armada has mentioned something of the sort, yeah, that he plays Fox to warm up for Leffen. He's done that in the past, actually.
Yeah, it's
Does
a
it a
definite
lot.
possibility.
Yeah.
For sure. It would be a smart move as well, because Fox Dittos aren't really the kind of thing where you can just jump in and start playing well instantly. Definitely
Yeah.
takes a little bit of warm-up to get used to it. And so, I mean, someone mentioned he's playing over there, Fox, right now, so that makes sense. But he, generally speaking, does just stick with the Peach unless someone's shown that they're capable of beating his Peach, basically. So I wouldn't be surprised to see either the Peach or the Fox. It makes sense to warm up the Fox if he is going to plan to use him against Leffen.
Especially, yeah, he's going to play against Leffen, who himself will have played a Fox Ditto against Ice. So
Right.
who will be warmed up in a way. So
Yeah, true.
I think the Fox is actually very likely.
And
Yeah.
speaking of Foxes, 3 of the 4 players, 4 if you count Armada, are actually on the winner's side are actually Fox mains. How
to Europe.
big of a factor is stamina and fatigue, and like does it play a part when you have these like all weekend tournaments? And do you think it factors more in for the Fox and the Space Animal players than the floaty players, or do you think it's just something you might feel it but you still play it the same way? Do you think it has a big impact on actually the performance as we head into top 8?
So I'm a little bit confused. I didn't catch it properly.
Like stamina and hand fatigue, you've been playing sets,
Oh,
you've been
as,
focusing,
like,
your
you
hands
get
are
to,
getting
like,
tired,
top
your
8.
brain is getting tired.
Well, during the top 8, it's set up a certain way where in between matches you get a break. You don't
Right.
get to play one set after the other. Unless you win the losers finals, then fine, you have to play 2 straight. But the format and stream always sets up so the players get a break in between. They can choose to practice on the side with like a practice setup, but they always have the time to get food and drink in between. So there shouldn't really be an excuse for like fatigue, in my opinion, as long as you take care of yourself.
Right.
And you got to be practiced and prepared for that anyway as a top player.
Yeah, I mean, all of these guys have definitely dealt with much bigger tournaments that have run a lot longer in terms of when they started earlier in the morning and then ran later in the day that night. So they're definitely familiar with the situation, and so it won't be anything new to any of them. And so if that ends up being a factor, it's one that they should have dealt with, basically. They should know better at this point. Being top players, they're all familiar with this situation. And there is that break sort of in between top 64 and top 8, so they have time to relax a little bit, get some food, get everything taken care of, basically, so that by the time top 8 rolls around, they're ready to go. And so that being said, as a Fox player, it's always a little bit of a factor, I think. It's definitely difficult to maintain the momentum sometimes, and the sort of the tech skill ability kind of just wavers a little bit the longer you play at times. And so, like I said, though, all these guys are very familiar with this type of situation, so I don't expect to really see much of that from them.
And the other thing is, even if you're feeling a bit of fatigue or just not feeling too well, it's proven you can fight for it. Like Amada got second, and he said he wasn't feeling very well at Big House. So He says that a lot, though.
Yeah.
Typical Armada.
So do you guys think it's tougher to deal with the mental fatigue of the focusing for so long, or do you think it's the physical that would play a bigger factor, if anything, as top players?
I would say mental for sure.
Mental.
By far. I mean, the physical factor is there, but we're not playing physical sports. We're playing esports, so it's definitely way more of a mental fatigue that you have to deal with throughout the course of a tournament.
And mental exhaustion exists.
Yeah.
And it really hurts sometimes.
So we might see a loser semis play out of Prof versus Ice. Ice historically has been sort of getting the better of Prof. And Ice, we've also seen him sort of close the gap a little bit between him and the top two. So he's been making some improvements and sort of, at Big House, taking a really convincing game off of Armada's Peach at Pokemon Stadium. What do you think Prof needs to do, to start making those dents in the top two like Ice does? And do you think Ice's improvement against those two will play any part in their, the set between Ice and Prof?
I think Prof's biggest problem is just like little gaps in his neutral and his punish game. Sometimes he just still has a little bit of the unnecessary tech skill and thinks like the way he moves around or the way he punishes sometimes is like unnecessary.
Right.
And if you just like thought about it just like a bit more simple and just realize like, oh, I could have just done this sometimes, and then maybe it'll just piece together for him. But that's how I kind of feel is the struggle for him. It's like very little things. It's hard to pinpoint exactly though.
Yeah, no, I agree. I played Prof in a fair bit of friendlies this weekend, and I think you don't see the level of consistency that you're used to seeing from Leffen and Ice coming from Prof. And so if he can somehow get to that level of consistency, then he's easily capable of beating Ice. It's just a matter of doing that for a whole 3 out of 5 set, and presumably Ice is going to be on point because he usually is as of late. And so it's going to be tough for Prof regardless, but it's certainly a doable set. And Fox Dittos in general just kind of go either way a lot of the time. There's a lot of ability to get quick kills, a lot of ability to swing the match in your favor very quickly. And because of that, Fox Dittos can easily go either way, even when it's it's supposed to be a 99% odds favorite or whatever. It could still easily go to the 1% at times. It's just a matter of who's playing better for that match.
Speaking of that, Prof did beat Ice in the set at Kickstart, and I think he got 6-0 straight 6-0. But the fact is, he did it.
Right.
So maybe he was just playing amazing, and then burnt out.
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
I was just about to say that. I was checking their head-to-head results, and apparently, Prof took the first set of Grand Finals 3-2, and then lost 3-0 the second set.
Okay, so it was just 1 second set.
So he's 2-11 in sets against Ice. Do you think confidence and mindset plays a role as well, outside of the little technical?
You should always be confident when playing. Like the moment you start losing confidence, you just play worse. That's just how the game is.
But do you think Prof has issues with that in a way, usually?
He says that's one of the things he's trying to work on the hardest, is always telling himself, I can do this, I can do this. That's one of the things he said in one of his interviews in America. I don't remember what tournament it was. And he's definitely trying to strive on that.
Maybe the one where he beat Hungrybox? Or
it might have been. I wouldn't be surprised.
And Ice is sort of known for doing sort of crazy plays, unnecessarily impressive plays. When you're a top player and you get killed in a way, that instantly is going to be a Giphy cat and going to make everyone crazy in the Twitch chat. Is that only for the spectators, or does that affect you? Or do you just recognize he took a stock, it doesn't matter if he did it with an up smash or with a crazy moonwalk back air, does it actually make a difference if you do it in a cool way or not?
It definitely can. And I mean, that's what you want to avoid as a top player. You want to keep your mindset such that it doesn't matter how they killed you, but it definitely does make a difference sometimes, even if you try to avoid it, especially if it's something that causes the crowd to pop off in the opponent's favor. It's really difficult sometimes to just brush that off completely and not let it affect your play.
Westballs and Ice are two players. I know the strive of playing crazy. They feel good about it, like the whole momentum thing somewhat. Like Ice is always talking about, oh yeah, I really want to do these cool things, and Westballs is like, I believe I can do everything. The two strongest mindsets in like the coolest ways.
Right.
Yeah. So it definitely plays a part.
And we saw an interview with Leffen after his set versus Zagetto. You mentioned Zagetto was able to take a game, which is almost unheard of at European tournaments for Leffen to be dropping games with this Fox. And he said, the hiatus, he sort of toned down the practice regimen a little bit, and he entered tournaments with other characters. How big of a factor do you think this will be as he heads into the set against Armada? Do you think this mindset of not putting too much pressure of himself while he's preparing to get back in the groove of things, do you think it's going to have a tremendous impact, or do you think it's going to look like another Armada versus Leffen set?
I think maybe I think Leffen might get destroyed game 1, and I think that might just wake him up and remember how to play suddenly. Because it's like sometimes meta is just like riding a bike, and you just remember how to play amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even though he has been not taking it as seriously for a while, I think he's had so much experience playing at that top level last year that it might take a little bit, but he'll definitely get back to that level, I think, today. And so I expect to see a really good set between them.
I mean, while he did play secondaries at Big House mostly in the tournament, he did play Fox and Cruz, and it was pretty impressive. He was doing really good against all the players he faced.
For sure.
So
obviously, he toned down the training regimen because of the lack of motivation of not being able to travel to the U.S. And
but this is not the first time it's happened. Like if you remember back when he was banned in 2013.
Oh yeah,
Swedish ban. The first tournament he came back to, the first big tournament he came back to was Beast 4, and he defeated Armada and he won the tournament.
Maybe he'll be hungry. Who knows?
It seems to be a recurring story that he's either banned or he's on a hiatus or something happens and he comes back and he has the hunger to win, the drive to win. You saw it at Gommel as well.
But it's not like he hasn't been playing. He has been playing. It's just been other characters.
Yeah.
So again, like maybe his Marth will be a good counter pick now just because of that. So it's not a bad thing that he took a break and just use other characters. Maybe his Fox will be a bit rusty, like we all say. But I still think it's still a Fox to be scared of because it clearly beat everyone else here.
Yeah, for sure. And I could easily see it being a motivating factor. I mean, it's the first tournament where he's taking it seriously and in practice for it, at least a little bit. I know he isn't fully in practice, but he sort of resumed his training regimen as far as I know, at least this past week. And so I think he'll definitely be hungry for it and he'll be really motivated. And so that should lead to a good set with Armada. That being said, I still feel like Armada is the slight favorite, just because Armada hasn't taken that break and has been playing consistently for so long. And Armada has had that top-level practice more recently than Leffen has. And so I think at this point Armada's a slight favorite, but I could easily see Leffen taking it as well.
Armada might have few new tricks that Leffen might not be used to as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So none of you would be shocked to see Leffen take a set or the whole tournament?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. I definitely think it would be a little bit surprising in the sense that Armada is the likely victor, but it's happened in the past, and Leffen has clearly shown that he's one of the few people that's capable of consistently hanging with Armada, basically. And so it wouldn't be that big of a shock to see Leffen take it. But, I mean, Armada definitely has had the benefit of being allowed to go to the States for the past year. And so I expect to see him take it. And he, generally speaking, is a little bit more consistent than Leffen as well. But Leffen, when he gets hot, he gets really hot. And so we could definitely see him take it as well.
Yeah, so that pretty much wraps it up for our top 8. Just to close off the analyst desk here, what's the set you're most looking forward to that you want to recommend to the stream, and for what reasons in this top 8? Is it the grand finals, or is it something else?
I think a lot of these sets we've seen before, but I'm very interested in seeing Kage versus Android personally.
Yeah,
I think everyone is.
Yeah.
It's just fun to watch Kage. He's such a lovable guy, and Stream Chat just loves him.
Oh, and just for everyone to know, it's the Norwegian Ganondorf players that have bought Kage's ticket to come here, and I find that amazing.
Nice.
I find that
Good
awesome.
choice.
It's
for sure. He's a very entertaining player to watch, and he clearly plays for the love of the game. He's enjoying himself while he's playing, so that should be a really interesting set against Android.
Yeah, I want to see how Android can adapt to Ganondorf, like a Ganondorf of this level. And
so it seems like everyone agrees that Kage versus Android is the set to watch.
Yeah, though I am also interested in Trif versus Prof because we haven't seen it
I
yet.
really want to see that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Trifascia is just a really cool Peach player to watch. He just does all these unique things that you're not used to seeing from Peach, and he's very technical for a Peach player. I remember we were playing friendlies, and after about 15, 20 matches, he was like, okay, I need a break, my hand's hurt. And that might be the first time I've ever heard a Peach player say, I need a break because my hand's hurt.
He can play Spaceys as well.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He can play
wow. Yeah,
Marth
not
too,
surprising because he's very technical with Peach, and he just does a lot of cool stuff to watch. So I would love to see him play against Prof, especially if they haven't actually played before.
Yeah.
Would be really cool to see.
The pocket foxes, dude. Like, they're happening.
Everyone's got one.
Yep.
That's awesome. So thanks for watching the Analyst desk, guys. I want to thank the panelists here, King Funk, Fuzziness, and Chillin' Dude, and we'll be back in about 25 minutes for the top 8 action. So stay tuned and don't go anywhere, guys.
Cool.